indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Barr.
Here.
Giovanini.
Here.
Eckhoff.
Here.
Callis.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Myers. Gaber.
Here.
Willie.
Here. Thank you. We have some guests with us today. Can make a few short presentations. Up first is Jack Bristow.
I'd like to thank all of you for having me here today. We'll talk to you a little bit about a project that we've been working on since about January, and kind of give you where it's at and all that kind of stuff. So without any further ado, I'll try not to mess up the PowerPoint here so I can make it go forward. I'm clicking forward, it's not going forward. Hang a minute. Forward. There we go. Good. All right. So what we're going to have is a thing called Lori's Beautification Day. So let me explain how this came to be. As most of you may not know, my wife passed away on December 8th of this last year due to a rare heart disease that she had at age 51. And we were sitting around on Christmas Eve with the family over at her folks' house, and everybody's having a good time, talking, laughing, and we just finished eating, kind of winding down. And then I kind of said, "Wait." And the family stopped and they looked over and I was like, "What?" And I said, "I got an idea." And they go, "What's that?" I said, "I want to do a service project in Lori's honor." And they said, "Oh, okay. Service project's pretty normal to a guy who is the advisor for Key Club at the high school. We do service projects all the time." And I said, No, wait. You're not understanding. I want to do a mega service project. I want to do a service project with like 200 people. I want to touch almost every part of Pontiac, and I want to make it beautiful in Lori's honor." And they looked at me like, "Do you think we can do that?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And so then I started brainstorming who would be good to put on the committee. And here's our committee. So I knew I needed the city because I knew we wanted to touch the park. So I got Taylor and Chris and Liz involved. And then I went and started thinking about who in my life and Lori's life really would have a passion for this and would be good ones to surround myself with. So Brian Blair is a teacher at the high school, so is Jill Francis. Marty and Shelley Heller from Heller's Motors. John Kilgore, the superintendent. Julie and John Melberg from our church at St. Paul. Debbie Orrs from County Market. Daria Robinson from the high school. Sarah Solberg from our church. Betsy Westergreen from our church and from the high school. And then my son Alec, who is home this semester interning with Livingston County Probation. And then myself. And I said, let's get together. So we got together for the first time in January, and I kind of threw the idea out to them. And since then, we've had 5 meetings, and I'd kind of like to show you what we're going to do. On May 21st from 9 a.m. until, we say 3. I think it's going to be done before that because we're going to have quite a few people. We have 120 people signed up as of this exact moment. And then we'll talk about shirts and things like that as we get towards the end. All right, so the primary thing we're going to do is pick up sticks and trash, paint, plant, and mulch. But we're doing it at a number of locations. I'll show you those real quick. So this is going to be probably the most dramatic improvement. So the front of Chautauqua as it enters, those 2 bushes are going to be pulled. The area from the left to the right along the fence up to the sidewalk is going to be tilled out a good distance. And that's going to make a new planting bed. We're putting in new bushes in the back. And then we're going to start planting up in the front of that with other things. We're also going to till around the Chautauqua sign, and then we'll plant there also. Each of the signs that you see, the wooden signs that are at each of our park, will be taken down, repainted, and put back up. So that'll be part of what we're going to do there. The other side will be back along the back where the bushes are, will again be pulled, just bushes along that far right side. And then up around the little historical sign there will be more planting in that area of flowers. So one of the things when we got talking about what do we want to do, Lori was passionate about flowers and just nature in the parks. We spent so many hours at this park with our kids growing up in Vermilion Players. And so we just looked at the parks and said, you know what, they're super nice and we got a lot of them, but they look a little tired. let's get these things spruced up. Let's make them look great in her honor. So that's what we're doing. We're going to repaint the Vermilion Players sign, at least touch it up. And then the building behind will be repainted on the outside. So not much to paint. Up on top, they'll get that painted with white. We'll do the trims, the doors. The very back I do not have a picture of, but it's all wood on the very back. And so we're going to get it all painted and spruced up also. The entrance to the rec center. We are going to plant, spruce up, make it pop a little more with some color on both sides. We're going to take both sides of that and dress it up a little bit more than even what it is. Lori's folks go to the rec center every morning, so that's kind of a place that I wanted to make sure we touched. The rec center, or the recplex rather, pretty much all of that is going to be pulled out or cleaned out, and we're going to start fresh all but the tree right behind the sign on that and get it all spruced up. Also right out there in front, you can't see it, I should have taken a picture, but there are yellow parking blocks that kind of keep people from driving through the grass. We're going to repaint all of those and get those all fresh looking. We're going to redo this little area right here. It's right up there as you turn left to go to the parking between the JFL field and the softball, baseball diamonds. Fell Park, we're going to plant some flowers here and clean everything up and spruce it up also. You can start to see that sign. It looks a little tired at the top, a lot of paint missing. So it's going to get, like I said, redone also. They've already put in, I drove by today, they've already put in a little square around that little hump right there. That will become another flower bed. It's about an 8x8 flower bed that'll be right there in that section. Kiwanis Humiston Park, they repainted the building just a couple years ago. We're going to redo the flowers there in that planting bed there. We are also going to paint the bleachers, and there's 2 of those garbage cans that we painted last time when we were there with Kiwanis, and those will be painted. Humiston Riverside Park, we're going to be planting flowers, and there's 10 of these. If you've not been through the park in a while, I had not realized they had been replaced with the man-made type wood, your Trex type wood. It looks gorgeous. We're going to use those little planters. We're going to plant in each one of those at that park and pick everything up if there's anything left to be picked up. And then Lions Park, we'll be planting there. They're going to replace that little area right there, and we'll be planting on that side. Oh, we back up. We'll go back. It won't, that's all right. We're also going to paint the bathrooms out there, the outside of the bathroom building at Lions Park. Dargan Park, that'll all get tilled up right there. We're going to plant flowers in that area. We're also going to repaint this swing set. So it will be all spruced up. I was with a group that repainted Fell Park through our church, and that paint has held up really, really well on the playground equipment there. This one's like the hidden gem of the entire town. I challenge you guys to go and see it. This is Westview Park. So this is, you go to Caterpillar, turn into Westview Subdivision, and go straight. And you will run into this park, and it is hidden back in there. We're going to redo the signs on this one. We're going to paint the picnic table. All the wooden picnic tables are getting repainted in town as that goes also. And then here's what it looks like out there if you want to view it. But we're not doing anything with that, but I just wanted you to see it. It is a beautiful park if you have not been out there. Like I said, it's a hidden gem in this town. So, you guys got the handouts, I believe, of the posters right there. The QR code at the bottom will allow you to sign up and register. Or you can call tourism or email tourism, and Liz will take care of you through that side. Again, the date is Saturday, May 21st, 2022, 9 to 3. And like I said, we're going to do it in my wife's honor. Another thing is we have t-shirts coming. So you can order t-shirts. There's another link through Lori's Beautification Day Facebook page that you can order a shirt, $10 each. The front is the top. The back is one of her favorite quotes. And so that would be the shirts. 3 different colors. We have pink, blue, and yellow. Those are being provided by my sister-in-law out of Canton, Michigan. So a lot of people were saying, where are you getting the shirts, you know? is it going to be general store? Is it going to be? I said, no, my sister-in-law really wanted to have an active part in this. So their company is donating the print and the labor, and all we're doing is paying for the shirts. And then she will deliver those on the day. They'll be for pickup there. We imagine other people will want them once they see them on that day. We'll take a second order, and then those will be shipped here and delivered. So that's kind of what we got going. So any questions that you guys have of us? Yes?
Mr. Briscoe, are there things that you guys need? Is there anything that would help out that we need that our community could also help provide?
The only thing I could think that we need is people. Just people and their tools. So bring a rake, bring stuff like that. We're going to be spreading mulch. One of the other things we're going to be doing is mulching the entire playground that's behind the bathrooms at Chautauqua Park, that giant playground. We've got a couple people volunteering their time. John Melberg has a small loader he's going to use. And then Tom Rowe has donated his crew and his equipment to bring in the mulch. One thing I almost forgot to say is County Market has gotten, with Debbie involved, has gotten behind us. They're supplying every meal for free. We're getting boxed lunches delivered to the sites. And they talked to corporate, and corporate said, we want to be part of this. Lori was part of corporate County Market before she became a librarian. So she started at 16 as a cashier, worked her way up. I think she left the County Market at age 24. And she was regional pricing administrator for them at the time. And so they haven't forgotten her. And so they said, we want to be a part of it. And Debbie said to him, there could be over 200 people. He goes, however many there is, we'll feed. And so pretty impressive. We're really just humbled by how much the community is jumping behind this. And we're really excited to do it in her honor. It's a great community. It's been a community for me since 1988. And she grew up in Odell and then moved here. So it's a passion of ours to give back. And then the challenge will be, what will the second annual one be? And so we're already starting to brainstorm that a little bit because I want to make this into kind of a tradition. And it's a great, I don't know, so many people said, I don't know what you need, but whatever you need, I'm here when you need me, when she passed. And that's so nice, but there's nothing you really need at that moment. Here's what I need. I need about 200 people. And so pass the word, spread the word to your family and friends, and come on out and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Any other questions? Wonderful. Thank you.
Just one, Jack.
Yep.
Great job.
Thank
Great
you.
planning.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Ritter, who's got a little presentation for us with his class.
So I appreciate everything. I actually, for probably the first time, have absolutely nothing to say. This is Danny Grace Schrock and Libby Larkin. These two are going to be giving you a presentation on their research project for the community, and I'll just let them speak. Chief, Mr. Brock, if I'm filming, am I going to be in any way? I like to film it more. Besides, I don't want their parents to get mad at me. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks.
So today we're going to be talking to you about the plastic pollution that we found throughout our community, the Trash Blitz event that we held, and then also some ideas that we have to maybe help combat this issue in Pontiac, Illinois. So as he mentioned, my name is Danny Grace-Schrock, and I'm currently a senior at Pontiac Township High School.
Hi, my name is Libby Larkin, and I'm a junior at Pontiac Township High School.
So why is plastic pollution such an important issue to focus on in our community? plastic that we use comes from fossil fuels, so that leads to greenhouse gas emissions. And then a lot of the plastic that we use is ending up in like the landfill that we have, and it takes thousands of years to decompose. And then it can also have many toxins in it, and since we are like a large agricultural community, these toxins can end up in the soil, can contaminate farmland, and also waterways, which can be harmful to us as humans, but also the wildlife within it. And then just in general, it takes away from the beauty that Pontiac has, especially for tourism.
So for our event, we held a trash blitz, which pretty much what a trash blitz is this is a website that when we go to different locations, we can input what we collected, so whether it was plastic bottles or cans or anything that we found, we can enter it into this website, and it helped us so that way we can keep all of our data in one area. So for how we decide where we wanted to go is we picked 30 just random locations in Pontiac, and we went to all these locations and spent 20 minutes at every single location, and we found a lot of different items there, which we will be talking about.
So what trash blitz event was that plastic number 1 was most prevalent, and that's like your traditional water bottle like the Aquafina or Dasani, or even your pop bottles that you just drink out of once and then you just throw it away. And that was at 231 items. And then next was metal, which we found to be mostly aluminum cans since that was what we mostly picked up. And then also our third most was plastic number 4, which is like your plastic bags from the grocery store, Ziploc bags, some like squeeze bottles for like different sauces at restaurants and things like that, and that was at 87. But we're gonna focus on the first 2 because those were significantly more than the others.
So overall, we found 845 items, which might seem like a lot, but like I said earlier, we only spent 20 minutes at these locations, and some of these locations were huge, and there could have been a lot of things that we just didn't get to during our time.
So here's just a further breakdown of all the different materials we found. We found plastics from 1 to 7. We also found some cardboard, fabric, paper, but as you can see, plastic number 1 had the highest percentage at 27.3%, and then metal was the second highest at 15.3%. And also, these total numbers for both plastic number 1 and metal are around the same as they were in the spring, showing that it is an ongoing issue, with plastic number 1 actually increasing the total number of items that it had, making it important for us to focus on it.
So these are just a few of the pictures that we took while we were collecting stuff. And as you can tell from these pictures is like a lot of the things we collected were plastic bottles and beer cans, and we found a lot of these different types. Like the middle picture on here, the only thing in the tub is cans. Like that was in one area, and that was the only thing we really found in that area.
So for our solutions, well, throughout our research through this trash blitz event, the main thing that we can really prove from it is the fact that from the spring to the fall, there has been this ongoing issue of plastic pollution. It wasn't just one time in the spring, it was bad, and then it just kind of slowly dwindled. Like, it is an ongoing issue. But there's still many more questions that need to be answered in research. So it's difficult to come up with just this one specific solution that can just fix it all, because you can't. And like we had some solutions that we talked about were possibly having more, say like recycling bins around downtown areas so that people can have a place to throw away like the plastic bottles or their aluminum cans. But even then you have to depend on the people to be responsible to actually take care of their items. So there's no guarantee with that. So what we decided was that to give the best effort to try to eliminate this plastic is to do a campaign in Pontiac that would focus on educating the people on the plastic found throughout our community, and then also on the effects of the plastic, and then what can they do personally to try to help this issue. And then we were also thinking that Pontiac could hold an event more like similar to Mr. Bristow's with Lori Bristow's Beautification Day, where you can focus on trying to beautify Pontiac and put it in the best shape that you can possibly for future generations to come.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I think you did a great presentation. It really gives us some insight and something we can put into our future planning. I'd also like to thank Jenny and Libby for keeping Mr. Ritter on the sideline. It will be a joyous occasion. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay. Next, we have a guest who would like to take a minute and introduce himself to us. Tom?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I don't have a fancy PowerPoint, but my name's Tom Vigaski. I'm running for the Republican primary in the Sheriff's Department, for the Sheriff's Department. A little bit about myself. I'm married. I have 3 children, 25, 23, and a 12-year-old stepson. He attends Prairie Central right now. We live out in the country between here and Fairbury. We have horses, so that's why we're in the country, and we have a Pontiac address, but a Fairbury school district. My experience is I have 26 plus years in law enforcement. I started in 1995 at the Department of Corrections at Pontiac Prison and Sheridan Prison. I worked at both of those. I did about 4.5 years there, and then I was promoted to parole agent, and I covered Livingston and Kankakee County. In 2004, at the beginning of the year, I started with the Illinois State Police, and I just recently retired there last year on November 1st. I started in District 6 here as a trooper. In 3 years, I was promoted to what we call Special Agent. It's our detectives branch. And I commuted up to Joliet, South Chicago, and worked violent crimes, which are homicides, major sexual assaults, anything where there's a human victim. And we also did financial crimes for the FBI. In 2014, I was requested to come down here because of the law change, and we had to be lead homicide certified within the state and the police departments. And I had to train some of the agents down here to be lead homicide certified, so they requested I transfer back down. I did that for about a year and got 4 or 5 guys certified, and then I transferred to Task Force 6, which is a multi-jurisdictional task force. We do undercover drug and narcotics investigations. So I went down to, and that's based out of Bloomington. Livingston County used to be in it about 25 years ago, if I remember correctly, and they pulled out for whatever reason it was back then. I wasn't around to give you an explanation for that. But I worked my way up as an undercover agent. I bought drugs undercover for about 3 years. I was promoted to field supervisor as a sergeant in the Illinois State Police, and I basically ran the operations out in the field, and then I was promoted to task force commander, which is our master sergeant level, about 3.5 years before I retired. I worked there. Basically what a task force is it's everybody who's participating, and we covered 3 counties at that point. Everybody gives 1 officer. The state police run it. We give a detective, we give a field supervisor sergeant, and then the commander is the unit. One thing about task forces is they're run by drug asset forfeiture programs. There's no tax money. There's no cost to the cities or the counties that are in it. You provide your officer as a salary, and that's it. We provide everything else. We indemnify them under the state police. We insure them. If we do get sued, the Attorney General's office does our litigation for us. We pay for the car, we pay for the equipment, we give them the computers, we give them everything. So the reason I'm running for sheriff, I was put in an acting lieutenant spot about 9 months before I retired, and I ran 3 drug units over 13 counties, all the way down to Danville and Mantoon area for those 2 units, and then all the way back up here at Task Force 6. So I was a lot of road time as a lieutenant, not much police work, what I call. The reason I'm running for sheriff is we started working some cases up here, and we just weren't getting anywhere. In drug units, in our experience, we go for the dealers, not the low-level people. So when we can only get to the first or second tier drug users / small-time dealers, and we can't go any further, it's usually not, there's something wrong and we can't do that. So I started inquiring about getting Livingston County back into the task force. I think I had most of the people, this was about 3 years ago, I had most people on board except for the Sheriff's Department, and he told me that the county board wouldn't let him, which I know the county board has no authority to tell where the sheriff put his people. So that's where I started looking into the department and how it was ran, and I came across some other stuff while I was doing it. Obviously my big thing is drugs. Narcotics in this county has always been pretty steady, especially heroin in the community around here. I've seen it in other counties that I've worked, like I said, 13 that I was over. It always was an up and a down rise, but in this county it was always pretty level, and I could never figure out why they weren't getting where they needed to get. The proactive unit that the sheriff's department ran obviously came into some issues last summer when the chiefs all pulled out of the unit. And those 3 guys that were in there for half of the year, they were getting 3 deputies plus $150,000 line item budget for that. And I couldn't figure out where they were spending this $150,000 or why they even needed it when the city 3 guys pulled out number 1, and they only had 1 guy in there for approximately 6 months out of the year, and then 3 guys in there the last half of the year. The reason I never come out and complain about problems without a solution. My solution for specifically the investigations in the drug part is to take the 3 guys, put 2 guys into Task Force 6, which is the state police unit that would cover this area. Hopefully the cities would join me on that, and we could have Task Force 6 run the drug and narcotics without any cost to the taxpayers. The $150,000 line item budget, I would like to take and hire 2 more deputies. Their salaries, you could hire about 2 is what I estimate at from what I've read on the contracts. The 3rd person that was in the drug unit, I would put into the investigations and then put the 2 new guys on the road. The reason I would do that is because investigations is way behind in this department. Their computers are way behind in this department. We had to do financial cases for them as the state police just because they didn't have the resources to do it. Not because the guys didn't want to do it, they just didn't have the resources for it. I would get us into ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children. The Attorney General's office pays for all the computers, does all the firewalls, does everything you need, and then you can use those computers for the ICAC cases, plus you can use them for elderly crimes, financial crimes, anything that's internet-based on that. The 3rd guy from the drug proactive unit would be back into investigations. The reason I want 2 guys hired is the other thing, when I've talked to the smaller communities, you guys are lucky here in Pontiac and the Pontiac area because you have a full-time police force. The communities around the county that the county's supposed to do, Edmonton, for example, those boards are telling me they rarely see deputies coming through there anymore. And then telling me that the deputies are on the interstate trying to get big drug hits. And that's what the state police is for. There's no reason for county taxpayer dollars to be going out to the interstate when the state police are out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. They should be in their communities. They should be proactively going to the meetings, but specifically for me, it's in the communities that don't have full-time police officers. Chatsworth has a full-time 1 officer, the chief down there. He said he needed backup one time and the nearest car was Fairbury and the nearest county car was 30 minutes away. That's unacceptable to me in policing, especially in the rural areas. As a trooper, back when we weren't hiring for years, I was the only one in 3 counties and I always counted on the deputies to back me up. The other part I'm running on is the accountability and the transparency. The jail issues, if you've seen any of the county boards, there's some healthcare issues that over the last year, they ran anywhere from $350,000 to $500,000 over the budget for the jail. And the county, and it's basically it was lack of supervision and lack of authority to sign these contracts that were signed without being reviewed by Randy Ednock, or even the sheriff didn't even know what was going on. The superintendent just signed them at that point. The excessive forces issues, there's been a couple issues over the last year. May of 21 and September of 21 are the 2 that I know about, and I know the state police got called in by Randy Ednock to investigate these cases. If we lose them, taxpayers are going to pay the money for that. And it's not because those guys didn't know what they were doing. It was, again, poor supervision, lack of the only one with experience in training and administration. Any questions?
Tom, we appreciate your stopping by.
Thank you.
Hopefully, the election, I believe, is
June 28th.
So, good luck.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have a proclamation for National Skilled Nursing Home Week. An important issue. It's May 8th through the 14th of 2022. And it's whereas we honor and respect our elders and citizens of any age with physical or intellectual disabilities who reside in nursing care centers in Pontiac, Livingston County. Whereas skilled nursing care centers throughout our area are holding a multitude of different activities in observance of National Skilled Nursing Week, using this year's theme of connecting and nurturing connections. Whereas I urge the citizens to visit or call loved ones, family members, friends residing in care units offer kind words, and spending time participating in various activities. Unite those all walks of life in need of our continuing love and support. Whereas our administration is committed to quality health care, we take this moment to embrace the essence of the theme, connecting and nurturing. Connections, let us join all skilled nursing care centers, their staff, volunteers, residents, their families, and friends celebrating this special week. Therefore, I, William Alvey, as Mayor of Pontiac, declare the week of May 8th through the 14th National Skilled Nursing Week in Pontiac, a week to honor the important role that skilled nursing care centers provide in caring for and protecting our most valuable citizens. And we hope they have a successful promotion and week. Thank you. Moving on, we have 13 items on the consent agenda, which you might have thought was enormous, but a lot of them are minutes from various meetings that hadn't been published yet. I hope everybody had an opportunity to look through those. There are a couple zoning variances that are going to transfer to planning and zoning. Any questions or anything we need to discuss, or?
I move we accept it.
Move to approve the consent agenda by John Willie, seconded by Mike Barr.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks, Bradshaw,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda. We have ordinance 2022-006, approval of a solar energy facility. Is that?
And this ordinance, it doesn't have the lease attached to it. The lease is actually an exhibit that is a part of this ordinance. The city already has a lease with a developer for one approximately 10-acre, 11-acre site out on the airport property. And when that was approved, back I think it was 2019, we also approved an option for a lease on 3 additional sites on the airport property that ultimately did not get chosen through the lottery to be developed. And under some changes in the law, the developer, Synergy, has approached the city to develop the second one of those sites, which is about 11 acres, that was previously zoned already by ordinance number 2018-025 for the next year, before the actual development. But the ordinance would approve a lease of what they call Site 1A, which is adjacent to what the Burnside property, with approximately 11 acres, was already described in the previous ordinance. So if you adopt it, would cause the city to enter into that lease. And the zoning is outstanding. We passed an ordinance that we extended the zoning on the site that got developed specifically, and that we agreed that the other zoning could, when you do a special use, it normally has to have development within a certain period of time, or it expires. We said it wouldn't expire unless the city terminated it. So by, approving this lease, we're implicitly saying we're not going to terminate the zoning to let them build this solar farm now, because we'd have to give notice and go through that process. So, same supervising developer, but the developer long-term is Midwest Power Partners LLC, which is a different LLC than operates our current solar farm under lease. I think it's based on financing. They set each one of these up as a standalone operation, similar to the way the solar farms do. So, and there's a possibility, I assume, because the last one did, before it's actually built, we have final approval, there's a possibility we may end up with an additional assignee. Which would still be bound by the terms of, we'd have to approve an assignment if there wasn't a developer come in. We'd have to approve that, because our lease is specifically with Midwest Power Partners if you approve it tonight.
Any questions for Alan? Pretty straightforward what we entered into on the original solar program. So we do need a motion to,
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-0-006.
motion by Brian, seconded by Jason Lee. Roll call, please.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, we have Jake to talk to us about a little change at the sewage treatment facility.
More sewers.
Yeah.
So currently, we are around 86% of our project completion out at the wastewater treatment plant. Looking at late fall, we're hoping end of October, if we get a moderately and dry and normal summer, so we definitely are progressing, and the end is finally in sight. With that, I come to you with our 7th change order request that consists of 13 various changes to the Williams Brothers construction general contractor. The most substantial of these changes is RFP number 66, which I'll get into as I go over the 13 items. Item number 1, RFP number 55. This is an additional brick repairs to our dewatering building that was not covered in previous RFP 42. If you remember RFP 42, which how could you forget it? We did some brick repair on our one of our largest building out there, our sludge solids handling building, and we did the exterior, most of the interior, and we did find additional repairs needed after that. So this is more or less an addition to that, due to water damage from a roof problem that was not noticed. Number 2, RFP number 56, is the addition of some louvers to be mounted in some entry doors. Our Fairway View pump station is a very tiny building that houses a generator and our pump controls, and we had to get creative in that building to try to get enough air exchange for when the generator is running. And our solution to that was putting some louvers in existing doors that have been bought to try to introduce new air, and we figured that would be a relatively inexpensive method of getting some additional air. RFP number 57 is for HVAC system operation, our dewatering building. The original design for the HVAC system didn't work sufficiently enough to keep the humidity down and fresh air exchange, so we felt we needed to modify the controls of that system to provide a better environment in that building. RFP number 58 is a credit for a deletion of a startup. Our gas handling equipment, typically what a startup is for new equipment is it's a fee that's incorporated into the cost for the equipment manufacturer to come out and provide training and to make sure the equipment was installed properly. Some of these gas components, waste gas components for our digester are literally a couple pieces of pipe and some valves that we are more than familiar with that we did not feel we necessitated a trip from the manufacturer, so we were going to save money eliminating that. RFP number 59 is for the deletion of the Fairway View pump station building HVAC installation. Again, due to the size of that building, we designed to put in fans, and once we put the generator and new pump controls in, there was literally no room to put these exhaust fans in, which is what prompted us to put the louvers in the doors. So it almost offset the cost of louvers versus eliminating the installation of the HVAC equipment. However, we were able to repurpose that unused HVAC equipment in other portions of the facility. RFP number 60 is cutting an opening in a valve vault at the wastewater plant. There was an electric actuated valve that goes into a valve vault below ground, and we felt that should that valve fail, it was going to be next to impossible to remove it without having some kind of access hatch over it. So that cost was to install a hatch for us to be able to safely and effectively remove that valve if and when it does fail over time. RFP number 61 was for the addition of some concrete on the south side of our dewatering building. That was something that got mentioned and designed but didn't make it to paper. Something that had been planned on being done for years. So we went ahead and just added that in at this point. RFP number 62 was to cover the addition of an electric actuator for our east bar screen. The east bar screen is the existing screen that we left that was done in the 2009 project when we did that $3.5 million minor upgrade to some various equipment. We replaced the other existing screen that was next to it with a more efficient one. And once we've had that new screen in service, we have found that when we have high flow due to heavy rainfall, that new screen needs a little bit of relief. So we need to bypass to the other screen at times. And the gate in front of that screen is a 1600 revolution gate, so it's literally 1600 turns of a valve. And expecting operators to come in the middle of the night to operate that is just virtually impossible. So we looked ahead at putting an electric valve on there to be able to do that automatically to prevent overtime call-in and to more or less streamline the plan when we do have heavy rainfalls. That piece of equipment will pay for itself over time. RFP number 63 is to add some conduit and wire and a duct bank to the Wi-Fi tower that was in the previous change order. We weren't ready for that in that one. Now that the tower's up, we're ready to run some pipe and conduit to provide Wi-Fi and signals to our pump stations. So that was simply just to add conduit to that. RFP number 64, number 10, is to add a duct bank around our grit building, which, and if you're not familiar with what a duct bank is, it's pipes in the ground that carry all the electrical and the communication cables. And due to being such high voltage out at the treatment plant, those pipes have to be encased in concrete. So under the ground, it almost looks like a little concrete road going building to building to protect. So if a contractor or one of us are digging in the future, that concrete barrier will protect us from hitting conduit with. So that was to more or less run a new HVAC exhaust out of the roof. Very minor. RFP number 66, which is the big hitter in this one. I know some of you probably remember the tripling filters, the big 2 tanks that had the arms that sat there and turned real slow, almost like a merry-go-round. Those were filled with stone prior to this project, and we repurposed those to serve as equalization basins for our high-strength waste, including leachate, anything from Caterpillar, Interlake, that whole industrial area over there. We'll be able to use that to slowly introduce that high-strength waste into the plant over a 24-hour period, rather than not having any control over it as we do now. Also, the other one of them will be used for stormwater storage to store during high flow events. Well, once we removed all the stone and we utilize those now as empty tanks, based on OSHA standards, now there is a fall risk, because before, with the stone in there, if you fell over the wall, you'd fall in stone, you wouldn't fall very far, and there was not as much as a health concern. Now that that stone's out of there, the wall around the tank is not high enough for OSHA standards to prevent needing a handrail or some kind of barrier to prevent a person from falling in. We're about 42 inches is the minimum for OSHA to be able to not have to have a barrier, and I think those are anywhere from 33 to 36. So we found the most cost-effective method to provide that barrier is a chain link fence. And so a chain link fence to surround both those tanks together will be $35,561. And That number sticks out because when we looked at putting handrail around them rather than fence, that handrail number was just shy of $100,000. So once we got that number, we started looking at alternatives and found chain link fences the least expensive and yet just as effective. RFP, the final, number 13, demolition of additional concrete by our grit building. We found multiple tanks underground up in that north end of the plant, and one of them that we need to excavate more that nobody knew existed about 4 feet into the ground to run new piping through. So that was another surprise from a previous treatment plant decades ago. So that's in some additional cost to demo and break out that concrete that's below grade. So the combination of those 13 changes brings us to $121,461 to move forward with all of those changes. Our total project contingency is $1,108,500. $3% of our total loan project costs. With this change order, that will bring us to 49.9% of our contingency. So with this, we're still under 50% at 86% complete with the project. Again, we've got another 4 or 5 months of the project. I anticipate there'll be probably one final change order at the end for the miscellaneous changes between now until then. But I'm confident the bulk of these is over and we're wrapping up. So with your permission, I'd like to move forward with these changes.
Any questions for Jake? Can I have a motion to approve the change orders?
A motion acceptance of change order, whatever. Number 7.
All right. Motion by Kelly, second by Don Hicks. Roll call, please.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis, Lee,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Jake. Moving on, we get to hear from Chris, it looks like. He has fence projects too.
Yes, I do. We do have 2 fence projects for this year. One was planned and one was a result of an accident. The first one being at the city garage along Pearl Street. Probably about 3 weeks ago now, we had somebody, they drove through the fence and then back out the fence. I don't know. Well, they were right next to an open gate, which is weird. So they were about inches from the fire hydrant and a thick fence post, and they drove past that in and then back out.
There's alcohol involved.
There probably was. We don't know who did that. The police are still checking. So that was about 200 feet of fence that was damaged. And as we looked at the overall fence along our west property line, there was another 200 feet that went to the north that was in pretty bad shape. So we would like to go ahead and just take care of that total 400 feet, and that should have that fence line pretty well set up. The rest of it going to the south is in good shape. The second site is the Mill Street Bridge on the southeast side, in front of the houses there. If you look at the pictures, you can kind of see what's happening. That fence line was set in concrete separate from the sidewalk, and that concrete's deteriorating away and causing some failure. So we would like to go ahead and actually kind of redo the whole area and have the fence flush mounted to the concrete versus having it set in the situation that they put in here. So we did select prices from 2 vendors that we work with on a regular basis. The first being Pohulan out of Goodfield, and then All Types out of Streeter. To get back to the Mill Street Bridge, we replaced that with a 5-foot tall black chain link, so it'll be halfway decorative as you're going into downtown. All Types turned in the lowest bid of $29,280. They both bid the same like kind of material, so we would recommend accepting that bid from them for $29,280. So we can get some fencing put up.
What's the timing on doing?
The fence will be, I'm guessing late May, early June, because we'll have to go in and take that concrete out before it. Pearl Street would obviously be sooner, because then get in and do it right away. But that's kind of the way our jobs are stacking, that's kind of where that's gonna fall.
I'll motion acceptance.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
seconded by Brian. Approve fencing. Roll call, please.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw, Gaber.
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Next, we have resolution authorizing the application for community project funding.
Jake was notified, Chief Campbell was notified by Congressman Kinziger's office of legislative initiative project that's going to be taking place at the federal level. And that's the, as the mayor mentioned, the Congressional Community Project funding. There are various categories based upon his committee assignments, and the committee assignment that we're applying under is the Agricultural Committee. It is basically the same requirements for the Farmers Home Administration. We've completed the application. We're asking for $500,000 to assist in the construction of the fire station / ambulance station west of 55. Again, as we talked about a few meetings ago, really as we're looking at maximizing the ambulance service, that having a second facility on the west side of town would be extremely advantageous. It'd be advantageous, one, to provide service to the rural areas, rural districts. Number two, for emergency transfers at the hospital. Number three, and probably as significant, is with the growth of the community and the growth of traffic within the community, getting from downtown out to the west side of town, particularly with the longer trains, response times are getting longer and longer. And so that facility would be manned and would provide then much quicker service to the west side of the community as a whole. So we would have, with the same manning that we have now, that facility manned as well as the facility downtown. So to help with that construction, we're applying for this grant, and in the resolution that you have in front of you is also the commitment of funds for the sanitary sewer that would be extended down 116, which has been part of our plan to service that whole area west of 55 for many years. So we are looking at that. Also, we're working with the state with the resolution that we passed at the last meeting. The state is interested in supplying sewer service, getting sewer service, and so they're going to be paying for part of that line as well. So in order to apply for the grant, we need to pass this resolution. There is one amendment that I'd like to make. I put in there specifically that we would be using sewer revenues, and I propose that we change that to municipal revenues that would allow us to utilize TIF funds. So keep it generic at this point and figure out when this comes about, what would be the best funding source for that.
So moved.
That took a lot of twisting of the arm, so, okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
Motion by Kelly to approve, seconded by Bill Callis. Roll call, please.
Lee?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Bradshaw? Gaber?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
Barr?
Yes.
Giovanini?
Yes.
Eckhoff? Callis?
The application is due Thursday, and we found out Friday that we would qualify for this. And so Jake and Stephanie have really been aggressive in getting this completed. So we're hopeful that we'll be successful.
Good. Thanks, Bob. Infrastructure Committee. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. We held an infrastructure committee meeting on April 12th of this year. Called the meeting to order at 4 o'clock. I was present, as well as members of the committee, Joe, Naney, and Willie. Others in attendance were Alderman Eckhoff and Barr. We discussed numerous items relative to infrastructure, including the following: capital improvement fund projects. We have $300,000 set aside currently in the budget with specific projects to be designated until after the council has heard from all of the department heads. But the committee reviewed numerous requests and we recommend the following for funding this year. First of all, the baseball diamond rebuilds at the Recplex in the amount of $100,000 approximately. Second, the reconstruction and repainting of or repairing of tennis courts at the Recplex of about $100,000. Third, the tennis court restructuring at the Oaks Golf Course to be converted to pickleball courts of about $50,000. Fourth, the fuel dispensing system at the Public Works Garage of about $50,000. And fifth, the benches and other amenities in the parks of about $20,000. Additionally, we discussed that Senator Bergman has secured a $125 infrastructure grant for our city. The timing of these legislative fundings are unpredictable. The city currently has 2 grants that are still unfunded. Due to this uncertainty, we thought that a project that was not as critical would be a better option for this funding source. We thought that a perfect opportunity to begin development of the walking/bike path on the abandoned railroad right-of-way running through the Oaks Golf Course, as well as the right-of-way west of Deerfield Road. Lastly, Mary Jones introduced a draft of the new facade grant regulations. The committee thought they were well done and directed them to be finalized, and they are to be sent to the council for all when they're complete. And then the meeting was adjourned at 5:15 p.m.
Thanks, Brian. It was a good meeting.
It was.
Last item on the regular agenda, we had a person retire from the library board, and Debbie Dowdy volunteered to serve on the board. I spoke with Debbie, and she is an ardent supporter of the library and is eager to join in assisting them in improving and maintaining the standards of excellence that we have there. So I would like a motion to approve Debbie Dowdy to the library board.
So moved.
Motion by Hicks, seconded by Jamie. Roll call, please.
Hicks?
Yes.
Bradshaw? Gaber?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
Barr?
Yes.
Giovanini?
Yes.
Eckhoff? Callis? Lee?
Yes.
Pardon me?
They'll be coming back. At this point, they're the projects that we're going to be doing, but we'll be coming back individually for council approval to proceed with them.
I didn't think that we would move to go ahead and do
No.
none.
No, but be on the lookout that that's what's going to be coming. Unless anybody has objections and can take it up with the committee.
Okay.
Nope, it's too late.
All right. My comments is I looked at the agenda and thought I was needing new glasses, but it went very, very well. I hope everybody had a happy Easter, and we're moving on into the next agenda of things for spring, maybe. City council comments.
I don't know
I'm sorry, what?
There has to be 100 cars.
They actually had somebody like directing traffic at the traffic circle on Friday because there was no parking places.
I went at noon today and there was no parking spaces and all but maybe 10 gas pumps weren't used.
Yeah, they said they had
Yeah,
to,
Wallace.
somebody out of
Wallace.
the circle to find out whether you were getting gas or going in because they were trying to help you find.
Holy cow.
That's 2 days ago.
That was the cash register and sales tax ringing.
Yes.
And I think it's important to realize that probably 99% of those customers were from non-Pontiac residents that would be paying for the sales tax for the street improvements that we're proposing. So that's just a little plug right there.
I believe you're correct, too. That's very good.
The second item I had, while I was gone, I noticed that somebody hit the guardrail on 1800 Road, which is Forest Road, and 23. Just, I was curious, did that occur at night or lots of people?
Looking for a guy that hit a fence too, so
You don't know who it's,
I don't know. Yeah.
Probably the state traffic.
Yeah, I'll give them a call, Bob. Let them know.
Any comments from the city administrator?
I just have one. The governor had a press conference today, and he rolled out the new tourism initiative by the state of Illinois, and thought we'd like to show that right now.
Welcome to the middle of everything. Did you know that the corn dog was born right here in Illinois?
No, Jane, I did not know that.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And the music. We're back when oldies were called newies. I was scared of heights too, Grandma. Then I got tall. Illinois, the middle of everything.
They were here all day for that. But
Is that Jane Lynch?
now,
Yes.
Jane Lynch, last June they were here shooting. They've just rolled it out for the start of the tourism season, so that was pretty neat.
I don't think the governor made it, but, you know, he's made it to Wallace, though.
That's right.
Okay. Public comments? At this time. Thank you. Okay. We do have need of executive session, so we'll need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
For the purposes of
Collective bargaining and personnel.
and land acquisition.
Oh, no. Land acquisition?
Yes.
Okay, all three. Motion by John Willie, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis, Lee,
Yes.
Hicks, Bradshaw, Gaber,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Give us about 3 minutes and we'll go into executive session.